Chapter 1, Dark Psychology 101. In a utopian world, all human beings would look out for each other. Neighbors would be friends, colleagues in the corporate world would not be cutthroat in their competitiveness, and strangers would all be kind. There would be no theft, kidnappings, or even murder. There would just be perfect happiness and harmony. You could go about your business without worrying that someone was trying to take advantage of you. You could leave your bank cards unattended because nobody would be trying to steal from you. Sleeping with your windows and doors open would be the norm. Identity theft would not exist. Jails would become obsolete, and women could walk in the dark without worrying about getting attacked. Unfortunately, this is not the kind of world we live in. In the real world, people use and abuse each other all the time. It almost seems that there is always someone waiting to take advantage of you at every turn. In today's world, where physical boundaries have been obliterated by the internet and numerous other technologies, you are at an even greater risk of being preyed upon by other humans. Not only are you being preyed on by the people you interact with in the physical world, but there is also the additional threat of virtual predators. Suffice to say, humans have become even more predatory than wild animals. Most people would rather believe the best of everyone they meet until proven otherwise. Think about it. When you meet a new person, do you often think of them as a good person or a bad person? High chances are, you want to hope everyone has as kind a heart as you do. That they would never do anything to harm you or another. If you go through life believing that everyone is as good as you are, assuming that you are indeed a good person, you are at a very high risk of getting manipulated and taken advantage of. Let's back up a little. When a human being is born, they are born with some inherent qualities that are critical for their survival. For instance, a baby is born with the ability to cry in order to get their needs met by another person. This is because the baby indeed needs another person to cater to them because they are too little to get anything done on their own. As such, a baby will cry when it needs to be fed, cry when it needs to sleep, cry when it needs comfort, cry for just about anything. Nobody trained this baby to cry. It is a survival tool it came with straight from the womb. If the parents of this baby do not set particular boundaries as far as responding to the baby's requests, the baby learns that it can get just about anything by crying. This is how manipulation begins. That is not to mean that parents are solely responsible for the breeding of manipulators. While parents contribute to the development of manipulative behavior by virtue of genetics and the kind of nurturing, or lack thereof, provided to offspring, there are other factors at play. At the very core of our being, we are selfish beings. We want the best for ourselves first, and others later. For some people, there is a line as to what extent they are willing to go to get the best for themselves. For others, the line is blurry and sometimes even non-existent. Where the line is blurry or does not exist is where dark psychology begins. Dark psychology, in the simplest terms, is the study of predatory human behavior. In other words, dark psychology explores humans as they prey on other humans for their own benefit. It dives into the much darker side of human consciousness, where conscience, empathy, and selflessness are unheard of. Dark psychology seeks to understand why some humans do not seem to have any qualms about causing others harm as long as they stand to gain something from it. Dark psychology acknowledges that not everyone is a nice person, however inclined you may be to think so, and then tries to answer why that may be the case. Human predatory behavior is something that has been in existence since the beginning of time. Humans have always preyed upon each other. This is a constant fact, only the methods of predation change. Typically, human beings utilize two main channels in their predation, intergroup and intergroup, which are internal and external channels, respectively. Intergroup versus intergroup predation. In any group of people such as a society, community, county, or region, where there are shared similarities, there are typically superior and inferior parties. The superiority or inferiority is often determined by what the group of people defines to be the criteria for the same. For instance, it might be the economic power or the social class or so on. Often, you'll find that the superior parties prey on the inferior ones for their own advancement. When this happens, intergroup predation is at play. A group of corporations setting up industries in a residential area occupied by poor residents is an example of intergroup predation. In this instance, the richer section of society has no reservations about harming another less fortunate section that is vulnerable and easy prey on. If a group considers itself to be superior to another group and preys on them externally, this is referred to as intergroup predation. That is predation between two or more different groups. This is essentially what happened during colonization, where European countries invaded other countries that they considered inferior and uncivilized for their own benefit. In your everyday life, you may not consciously notice the predators in your midst. Human predators are highly skilled at blending in with the rest of the population. They look like normal people leading relatively normal lives. Whenever there is a murder or any other criminal incident in a community, you'll often hear a member of the community say of the perpetrator, "He was such a good man, well liked by everybody in town. We would never have suspected that he was capable of such an evil act." The truth of the matter is that the suspect was not really a good man. More often than not, he was just a bad man disguised as a good man. Of course, the terms bad and good do not do any justice in explaining the complex and often confusing elements that play a part in causing one to choose to become a predator. While the monsters in your life may not always be obvious, there are some simple ways to identify a predator. If you are observant of the people you relate with, you will have an easier time telling apart the good ones from the bad ones. This is especially true if you listen more than you talk. You learn more when you are just listening and observing. So, what are the distinguishing marks of a human predator? Identifying a human predator. Your favorite colleague at work might be someone that you really get along with, or someone who pretends to get along with you for their own benefit. How do you tell the difference? They are unbelievably charming. The most efficient predators are also extremely charming. They know how to do and say the right things so that they come across as appealing to others. They come off as highly likable based on their ability to get in anybody's good books by virtue of a few well-placed compliments and smiles. When you meet such a charmer, they will make you believe that you are the center of their universe. They will pay you attention, make you feel special, and pull all the stops to impress. For many charmers, this is a learned art form. They have had years of practice to perfect the Mr. Charming act. When two normal people with no hidden agendas meet, the interaction that occurs is natural, sometimes awkward, and often superficial. That is, there is likely to be a whole lot of small talk to fill the silences instead of deep heartfelt conversations. The latter conversations happen after you have gotten to know each other a little better. Be cautious of anyone who tries to charmingly divulge any unnecessary information that paints them as this perfect human who is incapable of making a wrong move. Be careful of anyone who always has the perfect answer to all questions. Lastly, be wary of anyone who seems to float effortlessly through social interactions. This kind of person may be a well-meaning social butterfly, but there is also a chance that they are putting on a show that you will pay greatly for. Entitlement is the order of the day. Have you ever come across someone who behaves as if the world owes them something? This kind of person must have what they want at whatever cost. If they do not, they will throw a tantrum and make everyone pay for it. Human predators are often entitled people. This is the reason why they often have no problem getting what they want at whatever cost, even if it means hurting others. After all, the world is in their debt, and this debt must be repaid even if it means stepping on a few or many toes along the way. At the workplace, entitlement is played out in the form of a colleague who believes they deserve a promotion by virtue of any reason that they come up with. This kind of employee will go to great lengths to ensure that the boss gives them the promotion that they believe they have earned, even if they barely pull their weight at the office. They will try to make everyone else look bad and undeserving of the promotion. If they do not get their way and the promotion goes to someone else, they will consider that person their lifelong enemy. After all, how could that person take away their promotion? It will never occur to this entitled employee that they probably need to work harder to rise up the ranks. They love being in control. Most people love having some control in certain aspects of their lives. It is normal to want to be able to call the shots, within reasonable bounds. The problem begins when a particular person feels that they need to call the shots in their lives and in other people's lives. Most manipulators are control freaks. Some of them have subtle ways of expressing this control, while others could not be bothered to make it less obvious. If you have a control freak in your life, you probably already know it. Control freaks are often hard to miss thanks to their ability to involve themselves in just about anything and everything. At the workplace, control freaks have a very hard time delegating to others, even when it is necessary. They want to run each and every show because they know the reward is theirs to reap. Another sign of a control freak is the inability to admit when they are wrong. Humans are prone to error, and it requires a certain level of grace to accept that you are on the wrong. This is a kind of grace that most control freaks lack. A reason why people who love to be in control find it hard to admit error is that they view it as an admission to being weak, which contradicts their idealized self-image that they are better than everybody else. If you ever find yourself engaged in an argument with a control freak, do not expect to win. In any battle involving a control freak, they always win. If they do not win, the winner becomes the newest enemy that must be defeated, come what may. Control freaks also like to nitpick everybody and anybody, judging them according to the superior standards they have set for themselves. A control freak will have an opinion about anything under the sun, even when this opinion is uncalled for or even unsolicited. Their critique is harsh and often leaves others feeling worse. This is a way of gaining control for them. If you make someone feel inadequate and small, you have a better chance of getting them to comply with your demands, whatever these may be. As you may have guessed, control freak is not the official psychological term for such individuals. Rather, this is a term that is used in informal circles to describe anyone who has an obsessive desire to get others to comply or to have control over others. While this unnatural need for control is motivated by the need for manipulative power over others, there are several root causes for this kind of behavior. Control freaks often have personality disorders that cause them to behave as they do. A personality disorder is defined as a pattern of behavior that deviates from what is considered normal behavior. For this sort of behavior to be classified as a personality disorder, and not just a teenager having a bad day, it has to show up consistently, to the extent where it becomes deep-set in the individual's life and daily choices. Everyone has their bad days from time to time when they make questionable decisions. An individual with a personality disorder has a bad day every day. Often, personality disorders are diagnosed by adolescents. In some people, it might take longer for a diagnosis to be arrived at. There are 3 personality disorders that are likely to result in a person becoming obsessed with having control over others. These include antisocial personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. Individuals with antisocial personality disorders often have an exaggerated sense of self-worth and very little empathy, if at all, for others. As such, they are often predisposed to controlling others without feeling any sort of mercy or sympathy. Sufferers of histrionic personality disorder, on the other hand, love attention. They will go to any lengths to gain attention from others. They must be in full control of the show even if it means lying about everything in their life to get this kind of attention. Getting attention is the means to and the outcome of the control they have over others. In short, attention is a song they can dance to forever. Narcissists love control because they believe they are better than anyone else and that they are entitled to this control. There is simply no getting your way with a narcissist. If you are involved with a narcissist, be it at work or in a personal relationship, the only answer you will ever be allowed to utter is yes. Narcissists thrive on control because it feeds their unending desire to be the biggest deal in every room that they are in. Their emotions are not authentic. Have you ever come across someone who seemed very kind and generous, but your instincts told you not to trust them? It's probably because your sixth sense could detect that all that kindness and generosity was not authentic. While it is possible for the heart and mind to be fooled, the sixth sense is almost always able to pick up the lies from the truth. Human predators know that there are certain emotions and behaviors that are beneficial in relationships. They know that kinder people are well-liked, and generosity is taken to mean that a person is good at heart. Predators will not care much for kindness, but will go to great lengths to paint the required picture of perfection. They will show up to community gatherings with home-baked cookies. At charity events, they will have the biggest check. They will always have the brightest and warmest smiles. On the surface, they will be the picture of neighborly friendliness and hospitality. That is why they always catch people unaware when they decide to unveil their other side, the one that is not as kind and not as generous. When dealing with someone who goes to great lengths to prove that they are a really nice person, take with you a pinch of salt. Pay attention to what your gut says about this person. Your ears and eyes may deceive you, but that inner voice of reason will always have your back. They like to be the victims. One of the best ways to deflect attention from your wrongdoings is to turn the spotlight onto another person's wrongdoings. Human predators have mastered the art of playing the victim. It allows them enough time to victimize another person while everyone else is distracted. A person that plays the victim will never apologize for anything they do. If they are late, it is because someone else sent the wrong meeting invitation. If they cheated, it is because their partner did not pay them enough attention. If they hit another person, it is because that person made them so mad that it drove them to violence. It is always one story or another. The truth of the matter is that the predator is never the victim. They are often incapable of being the victim. After all, they have orchestrated their lives and those of others to suit their own interest. However, predators also know that people like to feel sorry for victims. As such, they will play the victim for as long as it suits them. With this understanding of how predators look like, you might be wondering what steps you can take to protect yourself. First, it is important to acknowledge that this first chapter only touches the surface of dark psychology and the players therein. The subsequent chapters will dig deeper into peeling back the more intricate issues at play. At the end of this deep dive, you will have gained an even better understanding of how manipulators and other dark characters operate. This knowledge will help you to protect yourself and, if need be, turn the tables as appropriate. That being said, you can still protect yourself as early as now. Basics of defending yourself against human predators. The first thing you need to know is how to identify the props that the predator is using to disguise their real self from you. This could be faked kindness and generosity in the form of excessive gifts or forced affection. Beware of anyone who comes across as too perfect. A wise person once said that if the deal is too good, you should think twice. If a person comes across as flawless and perfect, it is probably because they are wearing a mask. Once this mask comes off, you will be in a whole lot of trouble. Secondly, know yourself in and out so that another person will never be able to blindside you. Everyone has their vulnerable spots. If you are unaware of where your blind spots are, you will be open season for human predators. Predators are like sharks, one drop of blood, and they are all over you like white on rice. Get to know where you bleed from and keep this knowledge hidden far away inside of you until you are 100% certain that a person can be trusted with this information. The third way to defend yourself against predators is by using time to your advantage. According to statistics released by the World Bank, the average life expectancy in the US in 2018 was 78, while in Canada this figure stood at 80. This means that if you live in either of these places, you have a very good chance of living past the age of 70. So why is everyone in such a hurry? Unfortunately, we live in a world where everyone is in a hurry to go somewhere or get something. In the midst of all this hurry are predators preying on those who are desperate to catch up. If you rush through things, you will look back and wonder at all the mistakes you made that you could have avoided. Use time to your advantage when it comes to getting to know someone, or when it comes to understanding an investment. Predators like to instill fear in their prey by making them think that they are running out of time. You are not running out of time. Time is on your side. Use it wisely. If you pause to reflect every time you are faced with a decision, you will find yourself making much better decisions and avoiding numerous traps laid for you by the predators circling around you.